I know you're excited to be here. Just a couple things, housekeeping wise. You'll notice all the little mics hanging from the ceilings here. They got little green dots on them, it means they're hot. So if Amanda and Christy are having a little side conversation, it's probably gonna pick it up, so, try to keep that down. Also, this meeting is being recorded for people online, so, good afternoon. You're all here for the I-40, I-75 West Knoxville Corridor PEL Study Technical Working Group meeting. Then you were on the right place. If not, this is your last chance to escape. So, I guess I'm new to this team, but we've been working on this with our consulting partners for about a year now. This is a big deal for the West Knoxville area, and actually really kind of Knoxville area in general. I'm glad you're all here. I was worried. I got a lot of audio responses that we're on furlough. I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to have 5 people there. So fine. Appreciate you guys coming. We got a good turnout again. I'm going to turn this over to the smart people, right? Our HNTB team, our PMC is gonna kick it off and introduce themselves first.
Yeah. Hi everybody, my name is April English. I am with HNTB, and HNTB is serving as the program management consultant. And just to kind of give you an overview of what that means, we've got 3 main entities that we're dealing with here. We've got TDOT, which is the owner, and only the owner can be the owner. And you know, TDOT is maintaining responsible charge for this PEL study. They are the ultimate decision makers. Then we have the PMC, which is HNTB, and we are managing the day-to-day aspects of the PEL study, monitoring the schedule, and mostly doing document reviews, those detailed document reviews. We are like an extension of TDOT. And the reason there is a PMC is because we've got 4 PEL studies going on across the state of Tennessee right now. And they're not just PEL studies, but there are also a lot of projects going on. And so the PMC is there to be an extension of TDOT and do those kind of detailed day-to-day things for these upcoming studies. And then finally, we have the PEL consultant, which is STB, along with their sub-consultants. And they are actually doing the kind of planning products that you'll all be seeing today in the presentation and learning about. So just kind of wanted to provide a broad overview and of how we're set up. And I'm going to turn it over to Brad.
Thank you, April. You'd see it. So, was working all good? It's the doctor best of it. Interesting. That? Maybe I'll just go up there and
Yeah, we're going to have to do that.
I'll show it. At my You sure?
Okay, all right, good deal. Okay, well, thank you all for being here. I think we've got several people on here for the call. You should have, for those of you in person, you should have an agenda. If you do not, let me know. We've got a couple more up here, but I think there's still some back on the table as well. First thing on the agenda is actually introductions and roles. You've already heard April speak about the PMC role. You've been introduced to Jason, so I guess I'll go next. Brad Thompson with STV, serving as the prime consultant on the project and the project manager for STV. I guess we'll just go around the room here first. Lindy, so go ahead.
Yeah. Hey everyone, thank you all for taking time out of your schedules to be here. We're really excited to get your input and your participation. My name is Lindy. I'm also on the HNTB team, so helping with all of the public engagement and stakeholder coordination. So.
And y'all just met me, April English with HNTB, serving as the PEL lead for the PMC.
I'm Debbie. I would STD understand this all the time.
Everybody, my name is Matt Davis with Stantec. I'm supporting the traffic effort for a city of their teams. And had to eat out $10. Everybody brought like Airport Willie. Trucks quality, efficient program managed for U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Caribbean Corps Division, and then Hoffman City, Knoxville Transportation Engine.
Here, Ian Speedmont.
Jake Mines with City and Smith. We're supporting STME in the Class S. Right.
Stephanie Hargrave, CBM Smith.
That program with the Knoxville Regional Transportation Planning Organization. We're also part of Potts County, Knoxville County Planning, so we represent both. Davis is Mike Palmer also.
Michelle Kristen, TLRP team.
For the kid operators.
Stephanie Van Seven, TDOT Region 1. Christy Bacall, TDOT Region 1.
Good.
Thank you. We'll go to online. I'll go in order that I have them here. A car,
A partner on HNTV supporting the PEL PNC team.
Tammy,
I'm Tammy Stellers. I'm the manager over the environmental quality and NEPA section at TDOT.
Okay.
let's see here. Rick,
Hey everybody, I'm Rick Yakubik. I'm with East Tennessee. I'm the Executive Director of East Tennessee Development District.
Amy Longstreet,
Hi, I'm Amy Longstreet. I am a senior planner with STV providing planning analysis and document support.
Sarah, Sarah Watkins,
I'm here, Stantec, supporting the PEL environmental and NEPA portions.
Tammy Sellers.
Tammy just went.
Oh, she did. I'm sorry. Sunita,
Sunita Nadella, EMC HMTV track team.
let's see here.
Thanks.
Eddie,
And I'm Egg Alcha, environmental planner with STB, and I'm supporting the PEL documents and public involvement process.
Sonia,
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Sonia Baker. I am with Federal Highway Tennessee Division. I'm the safety engineer, but I'm also taking on the planning responsibilities for the division.
Eric, TDOT,
This Eric is the team lead of TDOT's project.
Crystal,
Hi, I'm Crystal Lindsay. I'm a roadway engineer at STV, looking at the alternative development.
Daniel,
Daniel Newton, I'm an area engineer for Federal Highways Tennessee Division.
Deanna, Deanna, okay. We'll skip over.
Hi there.
Oh, there she is.
Hi there, sorry, wrong microphone. I'm Deanna Langer, supporting public involvement with SMB.
Kurt,
I think this is a Kurt Stafford and Biswell Okerell with the Knoxville Utility Board Engineering.
John,
I'm John Price, Corps of Engineers, Nashville District Regulatory. I'm working with Travis. It's there in Denmark.
Okay.
Bode, Bode Boris, all right.
I think she's traveling right now. I know she's probably on the call, so she might not be able to unmute. She's the acting DA for the Tennessee Division.
All right. Thank you, Daniel. Adam,
Adam Nunez, the drinker for Stantec, and the traffic and driving for the choice lights concept.
Callie,
Valley Cash STEM Tech supporting traffic efforts.
Justin,
Yeah, Justin Eckel, engineering manager for STV.
Kevin,
Kevin Cole, Stephen Schmidt, supporting traffic for looking at cartoons.
Kara,
Good afternoon, Karen Reichhausen with Biohighway Administration, assisting the Tennessee Division.
Mark,
Mark Navy, Regional Communications Officer for Tennessee Department of Transportation in Region 1, East Tennessee, and I'll be the primary media contact.
Jason.
That's me.
That's
That's
you.
his computer.
Jason Schultz,
Yeah.
Region 1 Alternative Delivery.
The other Jason, FHWA Jason.
Yes, Jason working with Federal Highways. Kimberly Taylor was assistant Tennessee.
And Holly.
Hi, I'm Holly Barnett. I'm with the Tennessee Historical Commission, and I am the Assistant Director for Federal Programs and Deputy State Historic Preservation Officer.
Thank you all. Did I miss anybody? Anybody join us later? All right. Okay, good deal. Well, thank you all for bearing with us on that. Let's see, I just want to make sure, can we share the screen? Oh, there we go. Yep, make sure screen's good. Okay, all right. So we'll hop into the agenda now. First thing we'll cover today is a little bit about the study overview, give you all an idea of what exactly this is, what we're doing, how we're going about doing it a little bit. From there, we'll hop into some of the PEL study tasks and the planning products that will come out of the PEL. And then we'll discuss public involvement, which is actually coming up on us very quickly here that we'll cover. And then go into a little bit on the project timeline. So that's kind of the agenda we'll be covering today. And so we'll hop right in here. Let's start with the study area. About as basic as it gets, right? So we've basically got, you can see the map here. We've got 17 miles of the I-40, I-75 corridor west of Knoxville, west of downtown Knoxville. So, and it basically runs from the I-40, I-75 system interchange to the I-640 interchange on the west side of downtown. There is a much larger area there that you can see that's covered under the study area. It's kind of this northern area that you see up on your screen there. That is really included in the study area to consider any bypass alternatives to the I-40, I-75 corridor that we'll be looking at. So kind of gives you an idea of the overall corridor study area. It is a large area. We recognize that, and but we want to go into this with kind of an eyes wide open approach that we're looking at this holistically and comprehensively and make sure that we're able to basically consider any potential alternatives that would lead to improvements within the corridor. So a little bit about the project development process. So this started out, some of you are familiar with obviously the PD&E study process. So the idea here is the PEL study itself falls within that PD&E process that we're going through. The PEL study is one piece of that that will lead us to a series of improvements that get through various alternative screening that will allow us to move that then further down the process. Things that are included within the PEL study that we're looking at, obviously mainline improvements for the I-40, I-75 mainline. There's the I-40 interchange at Watt Road and the I-40 interchange at Campbell Station Road. Both of those are in the current TDOT 10-year plan. And then there are obviously additional other potential projects that will come out of this study. Once we get through the PEL process that we'll go into in just a few minutes here, that will then launch us into the preliminary engineering and the NEPA phase of the process. We'll work through the alternatives through the NEPA process. That'll move into final design, ultimately construction, and then obviously operate and maintain from the perspective of the system. So a little bit about kind of what a planning and environmental linkages study really is. And a lot of you may know this or probably know this, but I do want to make sure we cover this because there are really a lot of benefits to the PEL process, which is why TDOT is taking on this process for multiple corridors in the state. First of all, it helps us make cohesive decision-making with various stakeholders, making sure everybody's on the same page as we move forward in the corridor with identifying those potential alternatives. It minimizes schedule delays and ultimately accelerates project delivery, and you'll hear a little bit more about why that is in just a few minutes. You can see here advances environmentally responsible and cost-effective planning, making sure we're being good stewards of tax dollars. One of the big things ensures public and stakeholder input throughout the process. On the very front end of the planning phase, make sure we're getting the public and stakeholder input that we need to get the outcomes that we want. And ultimately lays the groundwork for various transportation solutions, innovative solutions, traditional solutions, and even things like choice lanes that the state of Tennessee is now looking at and considering. So that kind of gives you an idea of some of the PEL benefits. So a little bit more about what a PEL study is. I can't emphasize this enough. This slide is particularly important, and that is that we are following the statutory PEL approach, which that intends to adopt the planning products and recommendations from this PEL study into the NEPA process. That is in accordance with 23 USC 168. Some of the desired outcomes as it relates to this are defining the purpose and need, conducting preliminary screening of alternatives and elimination of unreasonable alternatives, various other planning decisions and analyses, and ultimately, again, to adopt the planning decisions under that 23 U.S. Code. The whole idea here is, and then over the right side, you kind of see the authorities that are given there with regards to each of the statutory pieces there. But the idea here is reducing the duplication of the elimination of alternatives from detailed analysis. So we're going to go through an analysis phase. It's essentially going to allow us to eliminate alternatives that, quite frankly, don't make sense to move forward into the NEPA phase. So again, can't approach this enough, or can't stress this enough. This is a statutory PEL. The things we do now will roll into the NEPA process later on. So a little more about the PEL study process. There's a lot of stuff going on up here in this diagram, but I can kind of walk you through it a little bit. First of all, this is a process built within the PEL process. So what you're seeing here is really focused on really the alternative screening, but it is a critical piece of the PEL. And in phase one, which is some things we've already done, we established a framework and methodology for the process, basically what it is, how we're going to go about doing it, the scope of things. We do all the research on the past studies, the existing conditions that are out there from traffic, crash standpoint, you name it. That's kind of what's done in the initial phase. From there, we jump into phase two, which is really where we are right now. We're just getting going into phase two. We've identified all the different plans, all the projects that are out there that have been proposed in this corridor. We're now starting to look at how those compare with the study goals, the purpose and need of the project that's in the process of being developed. And basically what comes out of that is basically your full range of preliminary alternatives that need to be considered for potential improvements. Once we establish and get that full range of alternatives, we then go into phase three. We will take those preliminary alternatives, we will screen them through a fatal flaw evaluation, a level 1 fatal flaw evaluation. From there, that narrows the field down of the number of alternatives down to a set of reasonable alternatives that will be further screened that will then ultimately produce a set of PEL recommended alternatives that will then ultimately end up in phase 4 where we talk about the PEL process, how that's going to transition to NEPA through the PEL NEPA transition report, and then ultimately TDOT FHWA will have coordination. I'll get into some coordination points here in a minute, an acknowledgement that that's the process we've gone through. Everybody agrees with the process we've gone through. It meets all the requirements of statutory PEL, and we have our set of alternatives that can then move forward into the NEPA process. So hopefully I helped to bring some clarity to this diagram here. Let's talk a little bit about your all's role from a technical working group. Obviously, you've got the first bullet done. You're attending the TWG agency coordination meeting, so thank you all for being here. A couple of things that are really important here, and you can see on the right side the three. There'll be 3 technical working group meetings. You're at the first one now. The next one will be during the alternatives evaluation, where you'll see kind of the alternatives evaluation, its process, And then the third and final one will occur before the second round of public meetings, where you'll be able to see and you know, I guess, comment on the evaluation report, the phasing of projects, and the PEL recommended alternatives. So that gives you an idea of the three meetings we'll be having. The second bullet I want to touch on again relates back to the slide I presented earlier regarding the statutory PEL, concurring that conditions in 23 USC 168 are met and can be relied upon during the NEPA phase. That's also part of the technical working group requirements. Provide input on the proposed alternatives, screening process, as well as a preliminary impact assessment and methodologies. And then finally, providing input on the following PEL planning products. You can see a list of them there. Baseline conditions, purpose and need, the alternative screening methodology, the evaluation report, the phasing report, and the PEL recommended alternatives. That's really why we want your all's feedback, why we need your feedback, because you're a critical part of this process to make sure things are being done and everybody is singing from the same sheet of music, if you will. April?
So we really kind of wanted to get y'all's input on a few items today, and we'd like for this to be interactive. We know we're presenting a lot of information here, and you know, we might need to, at the end of this, come back to some of this after we've gone through a lot of the slides, but we really wanted to ask 2 discussion questions. The first one is, are there any factors such as policies, regulations, or resource concerns that are applicable to your agency that may result in limitations on future NEPA phases that the study team should be aware of? I know we've got, you know, some people from the Corps on, and I can't remember who all's on from various agencies. I know we've got several from Federal Highway on. You know, we wanted to put this out there. I don't know if y'all have any thoughts right now. You might have thoughts after we go through the full presentation, but we wanted to kind of get y'all's input if there's anything, especially from, you know, resource concerns, that y'all can think of right now off the top of your head, knowing that study area that we should be aware of.
Well, necessarily that we think I'm aware of that, and I would say one of the things we always put that in the PEL and unique phase is to put level 1 screening alternatives and also level 2, make those screening criteria as clear and as quantifiable as possible, because, you know, it's a dependent alternatives analysis for us under an infinite firmly. We have an alternatives analysis. We have to do it under 404B1 guidelines. You just say PDOT personnel permitting clouded trouble. At that phase, we can make those the screening process criteria as clear as possible.
Okay, great. That's great input. Thank you. Anybody else?
Or anyone online?
Yeah.
If anything pops up, feel free to drop it in the chat. This is also kind of like Brad said with the schedule, a multi-month process, so you've got some time to think about it, but thank you for that.
Yes. Okay, we can move on to the second question.
Okay.
And again, this kind of relates back to that, but are there any specific locations or features within the study limits that have a direct impact on your agency's operations, responsibilities, or interests?
So kind of to expand on that, maybe give you some more thinking time, the survey that's live right now for the public that you all are absolutely welcome to share as well, that's on the study website. There are a lot of places in that that are asking the public to pinpoint specific points in the study area. So just kind of wanted to get your feedback as our boots on the ground, kind of a similar applicable inquiry there.
And again, if y'all, you know, as we go through this, things might pop up, and we're going to have a questions section at the end. So if anything pops up in your mind as we're going through the presentation, please feel free to bring it up then. But yeah, anything that you guys can think of that would be helpful for our team would be appreciated. Anybody online? We have a quiet group today.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is a great time to hear from them because, as we said, we're getting into now looking at alternatives and moving toward that. So if there certainly are specific things that you all would like for us to look at, certainly let us know either in the chat or out loud, and we'll make sure we get those documented.
Yeah, and one of the other things that Debbie just brought up that would be good and y'all can be thinking about is any projects that y'all know about that are important that are going on in the study area. That would be helpful as well. So, you can be thinking on that too.
Not to give you guys any homework, but
All right, thank you. So let's go into a little bit of discussion on the study timeline. We've been working a good bit on this process over the past several months, and we kind of want to let you all know kind of what to expect next. So there's a few things I want to point out here, and that is with regards to where we are right now. Obviously, we're getting into, we're into Q4 now. This is the first agency/TWG, Technical Working Group coordination meeting that we're having. But one of the things I want to point out here are in the, for those of you in the ring, let's see, you can see here we have these boxes that are half red, half blue. I want to point out that those in particular are coordination points that we must touch base with FHWA. So the PEL initiation methodology and study area was the first one. They've already reviewed that information and provided us feedback, and we're addressing those comments now. The next one will be the purpose and need report. Obviously, the purpose and need drives everything we're doing as far as this project goes. They'll be reviewing that as well. And then the PEL alternative screening methodology will be the next coordination point. The alternatives evaluation report from there, and then ultimately the approved PEL study report as well. So those are 5 different coordination points that must occur with FHWA. Along that way, as you can see here, we're having these technical working groups where you all have the opportunity to have input on these things. In addition to that, you see the public meetings round 1. We'll be talking about those in just a few minutes, so we'll get to that here shortly. So a little bit about some of the things that have been going up to now. We've conducted the traffic analysis framework, which essentially is a document that outlines. It's kind of woven into the overall PEL framework document that FHWA signs off on, but the traffic analysis framework is actually a specific framework to the traffic process and how we're going to do the traffic analysis. That was completed back in July of this year. We've also, since then, once we got approval of that, we've developed the traffic volume development document. We have developed the PEL framework that I already mentioned, that we're in the process of responding to comments now from FHWA. The PEL framework includes with it, as an appendix, the Public Involvement Agency Coordination Plan. That's been completed. All that had to be done, obviously, for us to establish how we're going to go about doing the agency coordination, the public involvement and outreach process. And then one more document is being completed is you all that are familiar with the corridor or where there are an eastbound and a westbound way station in the corridor. We have looked at some alternatives related to that particular location early on to identify how that was kind of impacting the corridor from the very beginning. Some of the things that are in development, public meetings that are coming up next month, which next month starts Saturday, I believe. And then from there, the baseline conditions report will be completed, as well as the draft purpose and need and the alternative screening methodology. You can see Q4 this year is a very, very busy quarter as it relates to this study. It's really establishing everything that we're doing moving forward. Q1, we'll be looking at traffic and revenue calibration as it relates to analyzing potential for choice lanes in the corridor, as well as the I-75 bypass travel demand model. We're looking at the potential. Many of you who have been around here for a number of years recall at one time there was an I-75 bypass proposed in the area. We're going back and revisiting that to see if that's potentially a viable alternative as well. So kind of gives you an idea of some of the things that have been going on and things to expect coming up. So now I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about each of these documents. Hopefully not too much detail that bore you all, but I do want to mention some of the important aspects of each of these documents. The Framework and Methodology Agreement, the first one, that's the one that really establishes the goals of the overall study, the expectations for how we're going to be doing things, the level of analysis we're going to be going through, the various coordination points that I've already mentioned on the timeline slide earlier, getting agreement on the anticipated schedule. And as I mentioned earlier, that's been completed, and we've gotten comments back from FHWA and are currently addressing those right now. I think it's safe to say the comments were relatively minor, and so that's good news. Things are moving forward on that. As part of the framework document, as I mentioned, the Public Involvement Agency Coordination Plan. This is the document that really outlines how we're going to be doing outreach, communicating with the public, working with the agencies, whether it be traditional public meetings, surveys, going out and doing pop-up meetings. All of that is documented in what we're calling the PIACP, the Public Involvement Agency Coordination Plan. That is really the heart of what's going to help drive this PEL process, is that feedback that we're going to get from you all as well as the public. Again, that was part of the framework document, and there were a few comments on that one, again, relatively minor. Working through those right now, and hope to have that wrapped up here very soon. The next one that we want to talk about is the Baseline Conditions Report. So the Baseline Conditions Report is exactly what you would think it is, right? It's the existing information and conditions that are out there now, talking about from the traffic standpoint, talking about the main line and other roads as far as if there are any engineering related deficiencies that are out there, the environmental constraints, obviously core part of what we're doing here, basically mapping all of this information and determining what it is we're working with today. We've got to figure out and understand what we're doing, what we've got going on today, so that we can prepare for tomorrow. It includes the previous studies and the corridor history, looking at those in depth. You can see this is just an example diagram that came out of the Baseline Conditions Report regarding crashes. You can see here the corridor, as you might expect, is riddled with crashes, unfortunately, and helps to cause more problems than we'd like to see on the corridor. So we've got to figure out, as we're going through this process, we identify alternatives. This data is what helps drive some of those solutions. And that's the same for the traffic analysis, environmental constraints, and everything else that's identified in the baseline conditions. The purpose and need report, I'm sure all of you are familiar with the purpose and need, but that is it's basically geared to document the study goals and objectives. It states basically at the end of the day what are the needs of the corridor. Once we figure out what we're dealing with out there, we can establish what the needs are for the corridor, whether it be traffic related, safety related, heavy truck traffic, freight related. It basically identifies those needs that we're then trying to address as part of the alternatives development. So that really serves as overall as the basis for the evaluation of the alternatives that we'll be moving forward with. We're looking at an anticipated completion date of November on that. That document right now has been drafted, and the PMC is currently reviewing that. Once we get that back and get comments addressed, it will then be off to TDOT and ultimately FHWA for review. So, but one of the things I want to point out here early on, as we develop the draft purpose and need that's currently being reviewed, there are several goals identified, and you can imagine that a lot of what those probably are before I even talk about them, but improving travel time, obviously, is a big one there. Accommodating current and anticipated demand on the network. We understand, obviously, there's already substantial congestion in the corridor, and it's only going to get worse. This area of Tennessee is continuing to grow and grow fairly aggressively. We have to take that into account so that ultimately we, in the best way possible, future-proof this corridor in terms of the alternatives that we come up with and develop. Providing congestion relief and improved level of service, goes without saying. Enhancing freight and goods movement, a very, very heavily traveled truck corridor. The way stations that are in the corridor, depending on who you ask, are anywhere from the number 1 highest utilized way stations to the number 3 highest utilized way stations, not in the state, but in the entire country. That is the result of having 2 major interstate corridors coming together at one location, and so that's what you get. You get a lot of freight traffic. We've really developed a good understanding of that and are now identifying alternatives to help us figure out how to work with that and develop solutions for that. Improving safety. I showed up there a minute ago, the crash, some of the crash heat map there. You can see that we've certainly got safety, crash-related issues in the corridor that we'll be addressing as part of this here. All that is obviously a very solid group of goals, we feel like. But the last one I want to point out here is, as we all know, this day and time, funding is always limited, more so than ever before. Inflation, those types of things are eating into that availability. But we've got to identify all these different alternatives and at the same time come up with solutions and strategies for how to fund those. And that's where the phasing and implementation plan will come into play on the PEL report side of things. The other thing is, not only do we need solutions as soon as we can get them. So are there ways to accelerate project delivery? By leveraging funding and delivery mechanism authorized by the Transportation Modernization Act. So that's all what's in front of us there. I would be curious if it's okay with you all to ask, does everybody generally, do the goals here that have been identified, do they seem pretty reasonable? Any issues, anything we're missing maybe there? This is for people online or in person, of course. All right, good. We're off to a good start then, right? If we can solve all those things, it'll be perfect. Good deal. So this particular slide, I want to kind of reiterate kind of what you can be expecting moving forward in terms of the various things that we'll be talking about with you all as the agency technical working group, the alternative screening methodology, and ultimately the alternatives evaluation report. You will have the opportunity, we'll be talking with you all about that, getting your feedback on that, as well as ultimately the project prioritization and phasing report. So the alternative screening methodology evaluation report, that's going to be coming up over the next 4 months or so, something like that, 3-4 months. And so then the project prioritization and phasing report will follow fairly closely on the heels of that, and then ultimately the PEL study report that will come later on in 2026. So kind of gives you all an idea of what to expect moving forward. So the next thing I want to touch on are, I've been mentioning these public meetings, so here you go. This is what we're looking at. Told you they were coming soon. November 10th will be the first one at Farragut Community Center Assembly Hall. And from there, we know there's a holiday in there on Tuesday. We have Veterans Day, I believe. And so, we'll skip over Tuesday. November 12th will be at Pellissippi State Community College at the J.L. Goins Administration Building. And then Thursday, November 13th, we'll be at the City of Knoxville Public Works Service Center Community Room. You can see here the idea here was to spread these things out across the corridor. We've got one on the west side of the corridor in Farragut. We've got one closer to the middle there with the Pellissippi State location, and then one on the east side with the City of Knoxville Public Works Service Center.
All 5 to 7?
Yes, thank you. Yes, all from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Yep. The public notices everything that's going out on that, so we're ready to roll on those. Excited about getting those going. A little bit about the format on those. So all 3 meetings will include the exact same information. So if you're in town, you're interested in going to the meeting, you've only got to go to one to see everything we're going to present. And only that, you're going to get a sneak peek of it today. So, they're all same information. It's an open house format. You come and go as you please. You come in, you can look at various stations. You can see the stations over here. We're going to have a station for what is a PEL study. Obviously, a lot of the same information we're talking about today, the study location map, purpose and need information, the study timeline. Then we'll have a station for existing conditions. There'll be maps that identify traffic congestion, the crash and safety information, environmental as well as design deficiencies in the corridor. We'll have an alternative screening methodology station where we'll show them, very similar to the diagram we showed up there, about the process for how we go about screening the alternatives so the public can kind of understand what that process looks like. There will also be a pre-recorded presentation that actually Mark Nagy is narrating, who's on the call with us from TDOT Region 1 Communications. That will be basically a presentation of the boards on a loop so that people that can go and sit and watch that as well. There will not be a formal presentation where we get up and stand in front of everybody and talk. That's not going to be the case. It's just truly an open house format for the public meetings. And ultimately, and while it's one of the smaller rows there on the table, one of the more important most important is the comments and survey. There are going to be comment forms there for people to fill out. They're going to be able to go around the room, talk to us, talk to representatives from TDOT about their concerns in the corridor. But there's also an online survey. Oh. Okay, I'll keep going. I assume that was a. There'll be an online survey tool that we are hoping that we'll get as many people possible to fill that out, because again, we want that word out there so that survey is out there. We want to hear from people to understand what people are dealing with on a daily basis. We've got all the data in the world, right, that we're analyzing. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is how people are interacting with the corridor and getting around in the region. That's what we want to truly understand to be able to establish some alternatives that are going to address the issues in the corridor. So mentioned a couple of these things. So the meeting is going to include, as I mentioned, the online survey, the technology station, if you will. It's also going to provide information for how to leave comments. There's a QR code up there. That QR code is active. If you're interested in taking the survey, by all means, go ahead and do that. But they will present to them information on doing comment cards. We'll have people there at the station that will be able to, to guide people through the process of taking the survey. There's an email address, wesknox@publicinput.com, that people will be able to send email comments into. There's also a phone number they'll be able to call in. And then, of course, you can always do it by the good old mail and mail in a comment. So we're trying to give people as many opportunities and as many avenues as possible to go in and provide the feedback that we're looking for.
And all of those comments for the public comment period, for it to go in the summary, they're due on December the 4th. So as you hopefully can help us spread the word on that, just emphasize that deadline.
Yeah, the survey will be live through December 4th, and then it will come down. So, I told you to get a sneak peek. Kind of want to walk through real quick the various boards you'll see at the stations at the public meetings. The first one you'll see here, you'll recognize some of this material because I've already shown it to you in other slides here. The first station will be what is say first station. They'll be able to go to whatever order they want to go in. But what is a PEL? It talks about the planning environmental linkages study, what the intent of the PEL process is, as well as, again, some of the benefits and kind of how those things work together. So there'll be a station related to that. There'll be the draft purpose and study goals. We've talked about study goals here today, obviously. We've identified a few things critical to the purpose side of things in terms of easing congestion, improving mobility, improving operational efficiency. So they'll be able to talk with us about those, what those things mean to them, and if there are other things that we should be considering as part of this. The project development process. So on this one, you'll see this is similar to the slide I showed you earlier with regard to the process, but it does not include the section about the PD&E. It doesn't call out specific projects, and that's on purpose, right? The PEL process is going to drive ultimately what comes out of this. We realize there are a couple of projects that have already been identified in the TDOT 10-year plan, but we don't really want to muddy the water at this point, particularly as it relates to, one, our analysis, but also hearing from people out there in terms of what they're interested in seeing and potential solutions. So we don't really get into the little detailed box of the PD&E and then calling out specific projects and those types of things. But again, the point here is to explain to them we're doing this PEL study that's going to roll into the NEPA phase, ultimately the project development, final design, construction, and the operation and maintain. We will have a slide. This is one that's similar to what you've seen, the PEL study timeline to kind of, again, we're going public with this timeline, so we got to stick to the timeline. So we will, but this will be there for them to see, and particularly want to make sure they're aware that there's going to be another round of public meetings where they'll have the opportunity to come back and see, what we've done in terms of alternatives development, basically so that we can present them, hey, this is what we heard from you all, this is what we saw in the data, these are the alternatives that came out of that whole process that make the most sense in our minds, what do you think, kind of thing.
And I'll interject here a little bit as well. We also know that kind of what Brad was saying, a lot of people will inquire about, well, when will improvements on the main line or in the study area happen? And this is really to emphasize when we get there, it'll be accelerated, but we can't get there to actual improvements and shovels in the ground until the PEL is wrapped up in Q3 2026. So just to kind of emphasize that a little bit too.
Yeah, because that's one of the first things people want to know. You're right. Is, okay, this is great. When do y'all start?
Right.
Well, we got to figure out what we're starting with first. So yeah, great point, Lindy. We'll present to them the study location map, the limits, very similar to what you've already seen here. This is actually a map that it's kind of a little bit washed out on the screen there. It'll be much more visible on the board, obviously, but this talks about the traffic congestion in the corridor, particularly the bottleneck locations. Interesting point here, 9 of the 20 bottlenecks in Region 1 are in this corridor. So the entire region of East Tennessee, or Region 1 of TDOT, 9 of the 20 are right here in this corridor. I think, and one of the things even more impressive to me is across the state, 3 of the top 20 are right here in this corridor. And you can see that's at the westbound at Campbell Station Road, westbound at Lovell Road, and then westbound at the I-75, I-640 interchange. It's westbound. We really got to address westbound. That's pretty clear. So, but we also know there are plenty of issues going eastbound as well. And there are a lot of reasons for why it's westbound versus eastbound that I won't go into here. But the point is, people have a chance to see this and confirm, yeah, that's what I'm experiencing on a daily basis. A couple other maps that we'll be showing them are some heat maps. These are typical weekday vehicle speeds from 2022 to 2024. You can see there's a 7 to 10 a.m. Period there, and there's a 2:30 to 6:30 p.m. period. You can see that the p.m. period, which is pretty typical in most places, the speeds are generally slower than what they are in the a.m. And so that's not really atypical at all. It's pretty common actually. These are the crash areas. You've actually already seen this diagram, so we want them to see as well that we've identified these crash locations. We know where some of the major issues are. Our crash data obviously goes into far more detail than what this is here, but we recognize that one, there's sensitivity to crash data, but there's also just a level that we just need to make sure that people can see that from a heat map perspective and say, yes, man, every single day there's something that happens at Level Road. That's what we're looking for there, feedback-wise. These, I mentioned the environmental data. This board will include environmental data that's mapped, as well as some specific call-outs on the left side in terms of environmental resources. This particular map is for the social and built environment constraints. The next one is the natural environment constraints. So this is your wetlands, your acres of flood hazard areas, parks and recreation, those types of things that are mapped here. And then we will also have on the existing condition side of things, I mentioned earlier, design deficiencies. These are various locations that have been identified in the corridor with some level of design deficiencies. A lot of times it's acceleration lanes not being long enough, or it's we may have some bridge vertical clearances that are less than required 16.5 feet. Curve radii, in some cases we have interchange spacing where interchanges are particularly too close together. So just really just what we're calling design deficiencies as well. I mentioned earlier, I put this one in here. So in the meeting, this will be, in the meeting, this particular board will actually be oriented differently. It'll be oriented kind of north to south, so that it's a little easier to see how it flows. Right now, as you can see, when you do it on PowerPoint, it's kind of hard to, do vertical. So, but this will be oriented in a vertical manner so that people can see how it flows down through the process. But otherwise, this is the same one we talked through earlier for the alternative screening. And then, of course, we'll have the station on the comments that I've already presented here that give them all the options for how to provide us the feedback that we're looking to get from the public. Okay. I'm almost done, I promise. So, next steps. The next steps, we'll be providing some of these reports for feedback and input, the baseline conditions, the purpose and need once it's ready to go, the alternative screening methodology. Those are some of the next things that you can expect to start seeing. As we mentioned, we'll be conducting the public meetings coming up very soon. And then we're also continuing the development of the alternative screening process. And really that entails a lot of just continued analysis of various alternatives, as well as actually developing the alternatives from more of an engineering standpoint. Technical working group meeting number 2 is anticipated sometime in the first quarter of 2026. We can't tell you exactly when that's going to be yet. It'll depend on some of the deliverables that we're wanting to get your all's feedback on, but just know that we are anticipating that to be in the Q1 of 2026. So, I told you I was almost finished.
Now it's your turn.
Now it's your turn. Take questions from you all at this point.
If you also want to go back to anything, we know that was a ton of information. So if we need to hit on another topic, also happy to do that. Just really want this to be an open discussion because, as Brad mentioned, you're our technical working group, but you're our partners in this. And so just kind of wanted to emphasize, happy to go back at all.
I'd like to see the priority again, big.
The priorities?
Let's say that
those?
Is this what you mean?
goals.
Goals,
Yeah, the goals.
okay.
Yeah.
We see some of those are subsets of the solve one goal, and it solves one or two subsets of goals there.
Definitely.
Yeah. Would it help having less goals?
So like, for example, providing congestion relief and improved level of service could be a subset of improving travel time. Is that what you're? Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I'm just asking out loud, does that help focus anything, or?
Yeah.
I know.
Well, I think it certainly could, and I think part of it is obviously when you say improved travel time, that means something to the public, right? Whereas if you start talking about level of service, that starts to get a little more, maybe people don't quite understand as well, right? So yeah, I could certainly see your point there for sure.
Do you have anything on that?
And is there a goal that all this separate about man starting the word for the use or the word you used earlier? And if so, it's not really reflecting the goal in Gary where make
So no, that's a great question. So we would not, the goals are intended to be fairly broad, right? As much as possible without getting into too much detail. The bypass, if it were to move forward, the reason for that would certainly be to improve travel times as well as congestion on the mainline corridor. So in other words, if we build a bypass and let's say it pulls 100,000 cars a day off of it, that would normally be using the I-40, I-75 corridor, obviously, that would be a pretty substantial impact on that corridor and improve things. So we try to keep the goals as broad as we can without getting too broad, obviously. But the bypasses certainly would be captured and incorporated into helping us to achieve that goal if the bypass were to be a real, alternative that can do that.
And I will say that the purpose and need and then the study kind of goals and objectives are all going to be utilized in the screening process that we're going to be doing. So, level 1 will be more of kind of like a fatal flaw. Does an alternative meet the purpose and need? And then, as we move into level 2, we'll focus in a little bit more on these study goals that are going to be actually quantifying what we're evaluating, looking at level of service, looking at travel time, data, and all that kind of information.
I think that just up at the, I probably wouldn't improve safety with top to list just so somebody doesn't read after this, going to next sort of priority list. I like you to technique.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
That's usually try to kind of end up the weeds and let them.
Well, and certainly as TDOT will tell you, safety is built into every project they do.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, no one's lying. What's questioning that? I'm just saying.
Oh, I know. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, I hear you. Okay.
It's good feedback.
And how much some of these it's all within fiscal year when you roll out the timeline? Or is that allowing something in mind?
You're talking about the quarters? The quarters you're talking about? No, it's calendar years. Yes.
Yeah, always a fiscal year. So.
Yeah. No, it's calendar year.
All calendars. Hey, just a question. You all studied it. How many bats get it in the durable weight up in the bone after optical grows? So anything specific to 40 people, the 75 people that have it up, racing just to follow the way? Are there more trucks more south, east, west in this segment? Or if we all holistic, we're whole areas because they're AM, EM, offing across them, or that's asking them.
Well, that is a whole can of worms for sure. Yeah.
Say that for me.
Well, no, I mean, but I think to answer your question, I think it's all the above, right? I mean, we've got, from a volume capacity issue, we've got issues with the number of vehicles trying to use the corridor that, and we've got a lot of traffic experts in here that can speak better to this than I can, but we got a whole lot of cars and not enough road, right? The old, 10 pounds of taters in a 5-pound sack kind of thing, right? So, sorry, sometimes East Tennessee comes out in me, but that's a situation we've got. The other thing is, we've clearly got some safety-related issues, some crash-related issues that are caused by a number of factors. One of the ones we think, and we're still analyzing this, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but one of the things that causes that a lot of time are the weaving movements that occur, both as a result of traffic backups, but also particularly on the west side when you get around the way stations and trucks kind of enter and exit those way stations. They're getting off slow, they're getting on slow. It's causing weaving that can cause, rear end collisions. There are any number of factors that are causing issues. The other thing is, of all the corridors in the state of Tennessee, believe it or not, this is the one that carries the most traffic from a volume perspective. Nearly 210,000 cars a day. I think the last count I saw was 205, 206, something like that. That's substantial, obviously. And part of that, obviously, is having two interstates that are coming together in one location. But there's just a lot of volume. And it's growing every day, as you all know, those of you who live around here. So yeah, certainly it's all the above, to answer your question. I don't know, Jeff or Stephanie or Matt or anybody want to add on to that, or Andy, so.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up our baseline conditions. I know Callie's been applying for it. I've seen that more ending. But we did evaluate from a freight perspective where that traffic is coming from. We didn't order to do that solution throughout the whole region, really. To look at basically the 35 south to 35 north, 40 and all of the things that we see about where that we do have that effect. That'll be the baseline dimension here. More, I just don't know that things are out there. You have no idea. And all the very sandy answer about this and just skip on I'm excited about they got it. It's ratings over something great. This is trucks.
It's nearly 30%. Yeah.
For a third of the volume trucks. If every truck and so that. So you've already got your deputy 2 named staying in today. And a third of those were us. So it's we got it right this. Didn't you?
Is that the reason why the westbound new things that are going on?
Well,
Non-salary meetings done. We saw a heavier movement heading south on 75 at retaining bank, which means that they wouldn't go it westbound. And that was heavier than northbound 75 trend.
and it's certainly not that there aren't major issues going eastbound, right? I mean, there certainly are. One of the things you see in those maps is if you think about daily commutes and people's behaviors, generally the morning time, people's time they're leaving is a little more spread out than the evening time. Evening time, come 5 o'clock, everybody's going home, period, right? So, I mean, so you get a much more condensed and more, more dense congestion going westbound, people going out of the downtown. The other interesting thing too is, the travel patterns are changing here in terms of the amount of people going east versus west to jobs, right? There's so many more jobs now out west than what there ever were before, right? That's been a continuing trend. And so you're getting more people even in the morning that are going, westbound. So things continue to change in this corridor from a traffic perspective, and we're doing our best to figure out exactly what that looks like. But yeah, it's I don't mean to imply that there are certainly issues going eastbound in the morning, but it's just kind of more of a travel behavior thing, I would say, more than anything, commuting patterns.
Anyone online wanted to check in with you guys?
Yeah, I've got a question. What about, I know between like around Level Road, there's always been kind of a drainage issue. Has that been identified as well?
It has been. It has been discussed. That drainage issue was actually brought up very early on as part of Level Road. From what I've gathered, that has gotten better, I think, recently because of some of the changes I think TDOT's done out there as it relates to the wetland there next door to the creek.
Yeah, I think Chris and I were involved in that. We've had a beaver relocation program. That helped for a while, but those little suckers are hard to keep away, so this is going to be a constant fight for us, I think.
Ultimately, what we found is that there's several detention ponds now part of that Turkey Creek development, and we actually found that there could be a fail. So the drainage lines on the interstate drainage also was impacted because of down in that drain and things that have tended to come. But it also shows us some community. I mean, it's a very fragile system. That to be is that floodplain is kind of continues to grow with floods. So definitely something that, Jackson definitely, and it's fair share being moved up.
Beaver relocation program.
Yeah,
I like it. Yeah.
He's apparently specialist for that.
Okay, I have no doubt. Absolutely.
They're good at it too.
They're braver than I am, I'll say that. Other questions?
About the composition of the working group. How is that decided in terms of, I guess, the standard players of the resource agency, the local governments, city of Knoxville's here, that plays out Knox County or Ennis County, and also partially Pop County in your team study areas. Did we consider adding them in our part of this after? Okay, very good. Yeah, very. Yeah, that was Kansas State. Yeah, very master. You got any?
Yeah, so we really wanted to kind of take a look at, I don't want to say, maybe our players who, our partners who we knew would have like a lot of presence within the study area. And obviously that's another reason kind of why we had what we'll call the first draft, and wanted to come to you guys as well to see, should any other voices be heard here. So we can totally take a look at that. But we wanted to take a holistic approach, kind of knowing what the natural, social built environments were, so that we could kind of hear appropriately. But if you think anyone is missing, I mean, I don't think that there would be an issue to add anyone.
You said, Mike, you said Anderson and Farragut.
Anderson County, Knox County, with South County, with Loudoun County, there, we know Loudoun County, the various remote.
Yeah, they're on.
We have any roads and the February. That's just something that is there, like.
Also, some of those players may be involved. We know that.
Everyone see how they get.
Yeah.
Chart to go, that's good to make us with the year.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but also just to kind of hit on that, a few players may show up at the second and third meetings that aren't here just due to it being the first one as well. So, but whenever comments are addressed on the PIECP that Brad talked about, that will go online and it'll have the list of them, and we're happy to share that with you guys. So. Because a few of those that you did mention are on there, and they are unfortunately aren't here today. So.
I think you'll already identified some to entertain locations that have problems and also. I think just looking at the issue, then in the straight and in front, I think one area will always have the problems, like 640 near Western Avenue, the one industrial at the handset. It's about that break always thinking some of that either it's on 640 Western, or it goes up winds over to paper mill at that interchange. So that can be a problem out there. Very, that's a little hot this if they were to pop breeze. So as I review this area, who should I send in specific locations to?
Well, you can totally, I hate to volunteer Jason, but you can totally submit them to Jason because you have his contact information. But also, if you want to submit a formal comment, I mean, we'll accept them that way. So it's totally up to you. Yeah.
I think Eric Saggers isn't here today. He'd be the other one. Eric Saggers and I are kind of texting in this thing, so yeah.
I'm glad you brought up Eric. I don't think we mentioned Eric, have we?
We didn't.
We totally were over Eric. For the recording, I'm sorry, Eric.
He's on jury duty.
Yeah.
He is.
He got caught at jury duty all week, so.
Yeah.
Eric is the PMC project manager that I work with on a daily basis, in addition to Lindy and April, but Eric is really kind of the point person from the PMC standpoint. So, and we're missing Eric. I know he wished he could be here too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts or questions?
I'm sure everybody wants to know if we wanted to re-watch this recording.
Yeah.
We get our hands on.
Yeah. So we obviously are recording the team's reporting, and then we've got for those of you online, we're recording in the room too. We'll package that up and we'll be able to share that with you all after we prepare the summary and things like that. Also, just to note, doing that for a few of our friends who may not be able to be here today, who may need to catch up on a few things before our second and third meeting. So we'll package it up and get it out to you. May not be before the public meetings, since those are, like Brad said, coming up pretty quickly, but we will get that to you as soon as we can. And it may come from Jason or Eric, just so you can expect where that will come from.
Any other thoughts or questions?
You will have other opportunities, just to emphasize that, so.
Okay.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, we will let you all go a little early, but we're here as the study team with TDOT. If you have any questions later or anything starts keeping you up at night, definitely want to keep you all engaged and hope that you'll join us at some of the public meetings in a few weeks. So,
Thank you all.
thank you.